The top stories tonight in Y News. An infectious disease expert says Omicron XE is showing signs of higher transmissibility, but it's not expected to evade vaccine immunity or cause severe infections.
Consumer prices in the Philippines grew at a faster pace in March to hit the quickest pace in 6 months.
Members of progressive groups filed a complaint against a congressional candidate and several others for alleged vote-buying activities under the pretense of cash aid or scholarship.
The United States of America announced its plan to seek Russia's suspension from the UN Human Rights Council.
Good evening, Philippines and the world. Today is the 5th of April, 2022. Join us in the next hour as we deliver today's top stories around the Philippines and in other parts of the world. I am William Theo.
We are also seen in 1,935 satellite monitoring centers nationwide and via live streaming worldwide through the UNTV News and Rescue social media accounts and our website, untvweb.com. I am Elsie Marcos.
First in the news, the recombination of two Omicron lineages dubbed as Omicron XE is showing signs of higher transmissibility, but health experts from the government says it is not expected to cause more severe COVID-19 or Dodge vaccines more than the original variant that spread in the Philippines early this year. Aiko Miguel explains why.
Health experts are strictly monitoring updates on the Omicron XE, according to DOH Technical Advisory Group member and infectious diseases expert, Dr. Edsel Salvania. Initially, Omicron XE is showing signs of higher transmissibility compared to the BA.2 Omicron subvariant.
Yung mas concerning ngayon is yung XE. Yung XE kasi, mukhang may about a 10% growth advantage na nakita nila. Itong mga recombinants na to, kung meron silang survival advantage, pwede silang lumaganap at kumalat sa iba't ibang places.
On the other hand, Dr. Salvania also said that Omicron XE is not expected to cause more severe COVID-19 infection or evade vaccine immunity.
There's always a possibility if it can come in, but we don't expect it to be more severe and we don't expect it to dodge vaccines any worse than BA1 or BA2.
The DOH assures that although quarantine measures have been removed for fully vaccinated travelers, pre-departure testing, arrival health screening, and community monitoring for fully vaccinated tourists and incoming travelers are still implemented to prevent the entry of new COVID-19 variants. Health experts advise the public to get their booster shots as added protection against more transmissible COVID-19 variants. Meanwhile, to ramp up the booster vaccination, the Department of the Interior and local government suggests to set the expiry date of COVID-19 vaccine cards to 6 months. The DOH says they are still discussing this with other government officials. In Singapore, a vaccine card is valid for 9 months.
May meeting kami with our DOH Execom to discuss these things also para mabigyan po natin ng bagong impormasyon. But definitely, kung ano man po ang mga maipanukala, ano po yung mga proposal, pinag-uusapan po ito lahat.
Currently, there are 12.2 million boosted Filipinos, while there are 46.8 million eligible citizens that still need to get their booster shots. Aiko Miguel, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
More than 20,000 schools nationwide are ready to hold limited face-to-face classes amid the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the Department of Health. Janice Enhente reports why.
The Department of Education is optimistic now that the number of schools already implementing classroom-based learning are increasing. Based on the agency's quick count, as of April 4, more than 21,000 schools are ready to resume physical classes after they passed the School Safety Assessment Tool of DepEd. 20,991 of which are from public schools, while 541 are private schools. Currently, there are 17,000 schools or equivalent to more than 4 million elementary and high school students who have returned to face-to-face classes.
This is good news indeed. However, we would like to emphasize that even as we are already launching face-to-face classes, particularly in the public sector, especially focusing on grades 0 to 3 for the younger children because they need it most, we are also continuing the blended learning approach to education.
And because more schools will return to physical class, a campaign was launched by DepEd in order to keep students safe and protected against COVID-19 inside the schools. DepEd is set to release revised guidelines on the School Safety Assessment Tool or SSAT to allow more schools to return to in-person classes.
Policy package ang tawag namin for the face-to-face. But rest assured that the revision has been done for the purpose of streamlining the process para mas maraming school ang mag-qualify for our face-to-face classes, but without compromising, of course, the usual health protocols that have to be observed while learners are in school.
Meanwhile, the Department of Health has expanded the vaccination venues in preparation for the return of students in schools. Janice and Hente, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
The North Luzon Expressway management prepares for the rush of motorists going home to their provinces for the long holiday. This is while expecting the number of traffic to spike beyond pre-pandemic levels. Asher Kadapan Jr. explains why.
More individuals and groups of people are expected to travel after 2 years from being restricted from mobility due to COVID-19 pandemic. The NLEX Corporation explains this as it anticipates more motorists to utilize the North Luzon Expressway for the long holiday next week. NLEX President and General Manager Luigi Bautista says the recent average daily traffic is now at 410,000. But for the coming long holiday, they estimate the number to increase to about 470,000, which is a little above the pre-pandemic level.
2 years tayong hindi nakakalabas, and we expect that people will really go out, this time. Mobility and travel have been relaxed. So talagang nag-prepare tayo this year, because tingin ko mas marami talagang lalabas ngayon.
With this, NLEX prepares for the surge in the number of traffic. They are looking to open all their lanes in NLEX from 8th to the 18th of April. NLEX also plans to deploy additional toll collection booths, security personnel, and patrol officer to strategic locations, especially during peak hours. Free towing assistance to the nearest exit will also be provided to Class 1 vehicles from 6 a.m. of April 13 until 6 a.m. of April 18.
Baka umpisa pa lang end of this week, maglalabasan na yung mga motorista. So that's why in the presentation earlier, April 8 pa lang handang-handa na yung ating mga expressways para sa ating mga motorista.
Meanwhile, measures are also already in place in the South Luzon Expressway for the influx of motorists in the coming days.
Itong pagdating ng weekend na ito, because we expect na may mga traffic build-up na this weekend for the Holy Week. Nakahanda na naman kami, yung traffic patrollers namin, yung rescue teams namin, at saka yung mga toll tellers namin, had already been all alerted for the Lakbay Alalay Semana Santa.
Both expressways strongly encourage motorists to use radio frequency identification or RFID to avoid delays in their travel. Asher Kadapan Jr., UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
For those watching our live streaming on YouTube, please click the subscribe button you see on your screen and ring the bell for notification. You may also follow us on Facebook. The national government plans to place all regions under the most lenient alert level 1. This as consumer prices grew at a faster pace in March. Rosalie Cos explains why.
The Philippine inflation rose to 4% in March 2022, higher than the 3% recorded in February 2022. According to the Philippine Statistics Authority or PSA, the increase in prices is mainly driven by rising food and energy costs. The National Economic and Development Authority or NEDA mentioned measures are already in place to address the increasing consumer prices and help those who are severely affected. NEDA Chief Secretary Carl Kendrick Chua added the government aims to move the entire country to Alert Level 1 to provide more opportunities for Filipinos to earn and provide for their families amid inflationary pressures. Meanwhile, Acting Presidential Spokesperson and Communications Secretary Martin Andanar said economic managers continue to keep a tight watch on the country's inflation. He added the Duterte administration will not relax in their efforts and will work twice as hard to address the national issue of rising prices. Executive Secretary Salvador Medialdea also mentioned this in an economic briefing today.
The Duterte administration will continue to work toward a smooth transition and leave public office with stronger foundations in place for inclusive and sustainable economic growth.
He also believes that the disruption of the pandemic to the Philippines' path towards middle-income status is just temporary. This is because of the reforms undertaken by the Duterte administration before the pandemic. Rosa Licoz, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Meanwhile, there are 3 wage hike petitions still pending in the Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board. The Department of Labor and Employment in National Capital Region says the across-the-board wages is not under the wage board jurisdiction. Eileen Cerudo will tell us why.
The Regional Tripartite Wages and Productivity Board dismissed the petition of the Trade Union Congress of the Philippines to increase wages by 470 pesos across the board. Based on the resolution of the Wage Board, across the board does not fall under their jurisdiction. According to the Department of Labor and Employment (NCR), the Wage Board only covers the minimum wage earners. The TUCP slams the Wage Board for dismissing their petition, reiterating the need to increase the salary of workers amid the increasing fuel prices, the Ukraine-Russia tension, and the high inflation rate in the country.
Heartless. Why? Hirap na ang tao ngayon eh. Alam mo, taas na masyadong almost every week or almost every day na yung gasolina. Di ba sinabi ko 95 pesos per liter? At saka yung sweldo na nakapako in in 2018, 27 pesos last time. Why is it their mandate to continually give minimum wages below poverty threshold wages, di ba? Di ba insulto yan?
DOLE NCR also reiterates that a strict process should be followed when filing salary hike petitions.
Lilinawin ko lang po na ang authority is the minimum wage lang po. Yung pinaka-floor wage na pinakamababa, no? Yung mga minimum wage earners na hindi pwede below that. We will fast track and without regard to the rules, it might be we might be exposing to appeal or to irregularity in the conduct of the minimum wage adjustments.
Amid the dismissed petition, DOLE NCR said there are 3 more pending in the Wage Board. One is requesting for a 213 increase while another petition seeks for a 250 increase. DOLE NCR says these petitions will undergo consolidation and consultation with various labor groups.
We will act on it on April 8. Kasi sa April 8, meron kaming board meeting as well as consultation po for the labor sector. Since we have given due course to the petition of other petitioners.
Meanwhile, the TUCP refiled their 470 peso wage hike petition, removing the term across the board. Eileen Cerudo, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
Members of progressive groups filed a complaint before the Commission on Elections against Quezon City 5th District congressional candidate and several others for alleged vote-buying activities under the pretense of cash aid. Dante Amento tells us why.
The Commission on Elections disclosed that they received formal complaints of vote buying after the reactivation of Task Force Contra Bigay last week. Garcia said one of the complaints was filed by the group Koalisyong Novalenyo Contra Corruption against Rose Nunulin, who is running for congressional representative in Quezon City. The complainants have accused Lin for allegedly giving 500 pesos in cash to the residents in her different headquarters.
The basic vote buying, yung mga sasabihin na ayuda, and then pagpapatawag ng tao, mga scholarship, tapos of course in exchange of the for soliciting their votes of these voters, ng mga rehistradong botante ng 5th District ng Quezon City.
The complainants stressed they can present some witnesses to pursue the case.
Marami po kasi dito, karamihan sa amin ay mga presidente, mga opisyales ng mga iba't ibang asosasyon sa Novaliches. So hindi lang po sa mga kamag-anakan, pati po yung mga miyembro namin, nagre-report sa amin ng sinasabi nilang ginagawang vote buying do sa iba't ibang headquarters ni Rose Nunulin sa District 5.
Commissioner George Erwin Garcia says these complaints will serve as a warning to those engaged in vote buying. Section 261 of the Omnibus Election Code prohibits vote buying and vote selling, and offenders face possible jail time and loss of the right to run for public office and to vote. Meanwhile, in a text message to UNTV News, the camp of Rose Nunulin says they are still validating the complaints against the candidate. Dante Amento, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The Philippine National Police has listed more than 100 municipalities and cities as areas with the highest risk of violence erupting during the elections or red-coded category election hotspots. Leah Ilagan reports why.
100 towns and 14 cities have been classified as red-coded election hotspots by the Philippine National Police. The red category is the highest alert when it comes to security due to incidents of violence, intense political rivalry, and the presence of armed groups that could disrupt the peaceful election. PNP Chief Police General Junardo Carlos says he had already ordered the activation of Special Operations Task Group in areas declared as red-colored hotspots.
In the last command conference, sabi namin, we're shifting to higher gear. So calibrated yung aming pong mga actions to be undertaken para masiguro namin yung peaceful election. So we're doing this as attached agency, a deputized agency of the Commission on Election.
Although General Carlos did not mention the places, he orders strict security in areas under the red category. Earlier, the COMELEC listed 300 areas of concern or election hotspots around the country. Leah Ilagan, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
One of the support group of President Rodrigo Duterte reiterated their support to the candidacy of Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio. Nel Maribohok will tell us why live. Good evening, Nel.
Good evening, Elsie. The Movement for Reform and Regional Development Toward New Economic Cultural Cooperation, or MrRD and ECC, emphasized their decision to support the tandem of Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr. and Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte Carpio. This is their position after the other faction of the organization declared support to another presidential candidate. According to MrRD and ECC Legal Counsel Attorney Diosdado Padilla, they do not recognize that faction.
We are making clear and unequivocal that MrRD and ECC and its more than 1 million members support the campaign of Bongbong Marcos and Sara Duterte. The faction of MrRD, which earlier declared support for Isko Moreno, does not represent the organization that is MrRD and ECC.
The said group pushed the candidacy of President Duterte in 2016 elections. The BBM-Sara team held no campaign rally today, while Mayor Inday Sara attended the birthday celebration of former President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo last night. And that is our update. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Nel Maribohok, for that live report.
And as they tour the vote-rich province of Rizal, the Robredo-Pangilinan tandem vows to uphold and protect the rights of indigenous peoples as they sign a new covenant. Harleen Delgado will tell us why.
34 days before the May 9 elections, the ticket of presidential candidate and Vice President Leni Robredo courted the voters of Rizal, the ninth most vote-rich province in the country. There, Robredo and her running mate, Senator Francis Pangilinan, signed a manifesto as they vowed to champion the rights of indigenous peoples and ensure that their voices will always be heard, including the right to free and informed consent.
Tayo po, estudyante pa lamang sa UP, pinaglalaban na ang ating mga karapatan ng ating mga katutubo. Marami sa ating mga katutubo ay nagsasaka din. Makakaasa kayo pag tayo po ay nasuportahan. Uunahin po natin ang ating mga naiiwanan, ang mga napabayaan.
Pero sisiguraduhin namin na yung batas kampilaki sa inyo. At sisiguraduhin namin na yung lahat na proteksyon sa inyo nasa batas, sa ilalim ng batas, ay nasusunod.
In Tanay, the supporters of the Leni Kiko team braved the continuous rainfall and pushed through with a campaign rally. The Rizal Grand Rally, held at the Rizal Capitol grounds in Antipolo, also pushed through despite non-stop rains. In the 2016 vice presidential race, Robredo lost to Bongbong Marcos in Rizal by 150,000 votes. The Robredo ticket will be touring the provinces of Occidental Mindoro and Palawan tomorrow. Harleen Delgado, UNTV News and Rescue. We serve the people. We give glory to God.
The United Kingdom battles a new surge of COVID as a new variant is found in the country. Mavian Dog tells us why live. Yes, Maeve?
A new variant of coronavirus called Omicron XE, first detected in the UK, is responsible for about 86% of all its recent COVID cases. This is due to the variant being more transmissible and contagious. According to a report from the World Health Organization, or WHO, Omicron XE is a cross-mutation of the BA1 and BA2 strains. Its category under Omicron will remain until significant differences are identified. Omicron XE also shows a community growth rate of around 10% more compared to BA2. Currently, it is reported to have the same symptoms as the original Omicron strain, which includes fatigue, cold, runny noses, sneezing, and sore throats. The most common symptoms of the original COVID, such as loss of smell and taste, are rarely reported in people affected with the new Omicron. Meanwhile, according to the Office for National Statistics in UK, a record high of 4.9 million people were infected as of last weekend as the restrictions were dropped. Elsie?
Maeve, are there other new COVID strains surfacing as people gather freely which might raise some concerns?
Yes, Elsie, according to the UK Health Security Agency, there are two other new strains, XD, a combination of Delta and BA1 Omicron variant, and XF, a cross-mutation of UK Delta and BA1. Although these are concerning, Elsie, more studies will be needed for the three cross variants. Back to you, Elsie.
Thank you, Mavian Dog, for that live report.
The United States Food and Drug Administration's expert advisors will discuss the timing and populations for the use of additional COVID-19 vaccine booster doses in a meeting later this week. The health agency said that a panel of independent advisors will also discuss the FDA's role in how future versions of COVID-19 vaccines are created to help fight new variants. The process could be similar to the current process of selecting the composition of the seasonal flu shot, where regulators pick the strain to use for the coming year's vaccines. The FDA staff also said on Monday that new variants of the virus are often more infectious, transmissible, and distinct from earlier virus strains.
The United States will ask the UN General Assembly to suspend Russia from the Human Rights Council. By Yuji Sasaki reports why live. Yes, for Yuji.
LC, U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations Linda Thomas-Greenfield said it is time for the UN General Assembly to vote Russia out of the human rights body for persistently committing gross and systematic violations of human rights. The announcement came after Ukrainian officials have accused Russian troops of killing 50 civilians found dead in the Ukrainian city of Bucha after the Russian militants withdrew from the city. Ukrainian officials said they will use all available UN mechanisms to collect evidence on Russia's crimes in their country. Meanwhile, Russia's ambassador to the United Nations denied the allegations of Bucha killings, adding that Russia's exclusion to the human rights body is unbelievable.
This is again unprecedented, and this will not facilitate or encourage or be helpful to what is happening between Russian and Ukrainian peace talks.
The United Nations human rights body can suspend a state if a two-thirds of 193 members voted for it. Since Russia's invasion, the Assembly has adopted 2 resolutions denouncing Russia with 140 votes in favor. Thomas Greenfield called on the 140 countries and said that the images of atrocities in Bucha and devastation across Ukraine require them to now match their words with action. Elsie?
Thank you, Ryuji Sasaki, for that report.
The World Health Organization reports that 99% of the world population breathes polluted air. Marvi Delfin will tell us why live. Yes, Marvi, go ahead.
William, the World Health Organization issued an updated report of the growing air pollution across the globe in light of their recent review of air quality guidelines. Over 6,000 municipalities are found to breathe air that doesn't meet quality standards, with the poorest air quality in the Mediterranean, Southeast Asia, and African regions. Dr. Maria Nira of the WHO's Climate and Environment Department expressed her concerns over the growing preventable deaths still caused by air pollution on top of the pandemic. Fossil fuel use is identified as the lead cause of air pollution. Burning of fuel produces nitrogen oxide and particulate matter, which WHO says is able to penetrate deep into the lungs and the bloodstream, causing various cardiovascular and respiratory diseases. These microscopic particles are particularly harmful to young children, the elderly, and the ill. As a result, the UN Health Agency is once again calling for more action against fossil fuel use, prioritizing the use of clean energy. William?
Yes, thank you, Marvi Delfin, reporting live.
Authorities are investigating a reported ammonia leak early this morning from an ice plant, which resulted to the hospitalization of 15 people. JP Nunez reports.
Business Permit and Licensing Office of Navotas City already issued a closure order to Magsimpan Ice Plant after the ammonia leak incident around 3 a.m. today. Authorities are still validating the cause of leakage and the possible violation of the ice plant. This is the 3rd time in 2 years that the ice plant had an ammonia leak.
Sa ngayon po, ang plant mismo ay isinasarado natin dahil maaari pa magkaroon ng leak dahil may mga gagawin pa po dyan. At sa ngayon po ay maganda na ang quality of air sa loob at labas ng planta. Pero idinideklara ho ng Bureau of Fire Protection na hindi pa huligtas dahil baka may mga gagawin pa po sila.
Residents fled their homes amid heavy downpour after a stench caused by the ammonia leak spread in their neighborhood.
So kaya nagising kami, nagpanik kasi yung amoy hindi na kaya. Yung oras na yun talagang nagpapanik na lahat.
Ang lakas ng amoy, kaya nagpanik na kasi hindi na kami makahinga. Tsaka ang sakit sa mata. Kaya yung mga bata nilabas na namin. Punta kami sa fishport kasi nga hindi na kami makahinga eh.
Navotas DRRMO said they are also verifying if the death of one person while evacuating was due to the hazardous leak. The victim has a pre-existing condition but they suspect he died due to ammonia suffocation.
May ano kasi yun, sakit sa puso. Nabigla siguro, nataranta. Hindi na rin makahinga. Kasi kung sa akin
Ako, ang bata ko pa, pero hindi ko kinakaya yung amoy. Ibig sabihin nun, ako, hindi ko rin kaya yung nasusuffocate na rin kami. Paano pa kaya yung may sakit sa puso?
Residents have returned to their homes as the ammonia leak was declared contained early morning. Meanwhile, the management of the Magsimpan Ice Plant declined our request for an interview. JP Nunez, UNTV, News and Rescue. We serve the people, we give glory to God.
And before we close, we will leave you with a word giving glory to God from the book of Ecclesiastes chapter 7 verse 1. It says, "A good name is better than precious ointment, and the day of death than the day of one's birth."
Those are the reasons behind the news, April 5, 2022. Reasons we deliver to you as they unfold. I am Elsie Marcos, reporting live from Auckland, New Zealand.
And because we need to know, we will always ask why. I am William Theo. We serve the people. We give glory to God.